Okay, I have a little dust mask on, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm a big proprietor of safety, and when you're dealing with buffing compounds that are like your number 2 here, it throws out a lot of dust in the air. And when you're dealing with an enclosed space and you breathe that stuff, you know, I hear guys all the time, I've been a welder for 20 years and it didn't hurt me a bit. Well, talk to me in another 10 years when you're sick and coughing up black stuff and can't breathe, and then we'll talk about it. But my buddies joke around with me all the time, but I don't mess around with you know, breathing hazards. But anyway, what we're going to do is you see this plunger here. When I get this going, you may not be able to hear what's going on because this grinder is kind of loud. Let me see if I can angle the camera a little bit better here. You may not be able to see what's going on. Let's see if we can get a good focus there. But we're doing this at an angle. It's going to be about like that. We want to take off, we want to round that edge there, the top edge. Just barely round it. And again, if you're wanting to bring your trigger pull down to the 2.5 pound range, I'm not going to advise it because I don't do it myself. But this is one of the ways you can do it. Changing the geometry of that plunger. I know a lot of guys that shoot IPSC and IDPA and stuff like that, and I tease them all the time because they're out there with these high dollar 9mm pistols and all doped out and shooting bunny fart loads and whatever. I'm like, dude, just shoot a 22 if you're gonna. But anyway, get that down to a 2.5 pound trigger, and you're gonna change your springs and everything else, but lower your reloads to a half capacity power, stuff like that. But again, I don't recommend it. I'm not going to recommend you do this, just for my own personal preferences and experiences and recommendations. I'm going to stay around the 4 to 4.5 pound range because that's for me personally, and a lot of guys that I do trigger work for, is the sweet spot. If you get too light, you're shooting 22 trigger power, and it's just I don't know. I just don't advise it. I know a lot of guys do, but I don't. And again, we're going to turn this bench grinder on, and it may be too loud for the audio, but we're just going to try it out, and you'll see this thing. The little black dot will become a blur, and then you won't even see it. The little black reference point. That's how you know it's working. Because you're just wanting to take off. Let me see if I can get my other point. There you go. You're just wanting to take that, round that a little bit. It's kind of crisp right now, but it's gonna turn her on. Shoot. I guess I better plug it in first, huh? I guess these fancy things nowadays have to run on power. Okay, now we're back in business. Excuse me. Let's get this. Let it get up to speed. And you see the little, you can see that little mark there. It's putting out a lot of wind, so I don't know how the audio is. See that chirping? That's how you know it's working. That's that chirping is the plunger spinning around on the punch that I'm using. Again, you're just wanting to barely take that angle, and then you don't have to put very much pressure at all. That thing's running around. Okay, let's. Okay. didn't know if you guys could hear me with all that wind coming off of that bench grinder. So if you heard it chirping, that was the plunger spinning around on my. That was the plunger spinning around on my punch. Take my dust mask off, and you can see the angle's changed. See how it's slightly rounded now? That's what we want. And it's polished up real shiny on the end. You can almost see yourself in it. And that was using a number 2 on this, on the buffing wheel. You don't want to use a number 2 on your Dremel. It's Dremel doesn't turn fast enough for this application. Doesn't have enough power to spin that. I mean, it will spin it around, but not at the. To get a uniform cut is what I call it. You're going to need to use a buffing wheel. And again, mine's just a cheap Ryobi brand that I bought at Home Depot that I use for everything, sharpening lawnmower blades and whatnot. I think I paid like 35 bucks for it. Harbor Freight has them for cheaper than that. I'm a big proprietor or investor in Harbor Freight because they offer all the cheap tools for the guys like me, that poor man's tools that can still get the job done. But again, that's how you want it to look. And we're going to switch you back over to the other side of the table now, and we're going to put everything back together and check the trigger pull.